What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another deck profile here on TCGU University for the card game UniVersus. My name's Tam, and today we're going to be going over my Deku deck profile from the Campus Championship, DLC, and more. So if you like the deck, make sure you check out the deck in action in the DLC and more Campus Championship videos here on YouTube. With that, let's jump into it. All right, so the Deku deck profile is fairly simple. The way that I want to accomplish this today is I want to kind of give you my elevator pitch of what the deck is supposed to do. If you look down in the description down below, there will be a link to the deck lists for all of these, or we'll figure out how to get the deck list down there for the DLC characters out on UFSultra.com. But basically, the elevator pitch for the way this deck runs is it wants to just poke you until it finds a real opening, and then use the once per turn plus 10 damage to really finish the fight. And so the entire deck is all about playing these little pokes in order to make sure that we grab our momentum and get you closer to the danger zone, so that plus 10 on any of my attacks is lethal. So you have to deal with everything that I do in order to make sure that you don't survive. And just in case we miss the plus 10 damage, if it gets blocked or gets negated or so on and so forth, all of our defense, 90% of our defense is actually from onboard tricks as opposed to tricks in our hands because of the discard hand. The call a zone honestly just isn't very relevant, just because there's nothing really under the good symbol that lets me look at my opponent's hand, and so I just don't get to really use that ability. But it's still on the character, and it might be relevant depending on how well you know your opponent's deck. All right, so first let's talk about the attacks of the lineup. When I talked about pokes, this is the best poke that Deku has, Delaware Smash. It is a 4 diff, 4 mid for 6, very good stats, and it has a flash keyword which says it skips the enhanced step. So we can't give this thing plus 10 damage, but they're not allowed to really interact with it either. Our goal is just to poke them and then build back out our hand. Really relevant effect when it comes to wanting to just sneak in a quick momentum. And 6 damage, honestly, is nothing to sneeze at. They have to interact with this card, or else I'm just going to scale out later. The next attack is Midoriya Strike. This card is very, very strong in our deck because it commits foundations equal to the punches in our pool. Every single one of our attacks in our deck is a punch, and so this thing late in the chain could commit 4 or 5 foundations, and as your 4th or 5th attack, they probably had to block something, and it just lets you open them up so that Midoriya can do his job of pushing in damage. Normally we don't give this thing plus 10 damage. It is a poke, it is a lead-in attack, but at the same time they don't know the next one's coming, so it's possible we just play this, make them commit a foundation, and then it smacked them. Let's build back out. It really is a mind game type thing. Deku's full of mind games. Our main kill card, or one of our main kill cards, is 5% Detroit Smash. This card is essentially Midoriya's ultra rare. It says discard a momentum, which we probably got with one of these cards here, just poking them like we're supposed to. Discard a momentum. This attack gets 5 speed, only playable if this attack has 10 or greater damage. And so with Midoriya, we take and... it has 5 damage already. We discard our hand to give it another 10. That's 15 damage, and then we give it another 5 damage. So it's a 5 mid for 15. That is half of everybody's life in the game except for like Goro. So like, and not to mention like we poke. We committed a bunch of foundations. We have other support foundation wise in order to support this. This is the thing that my opponent has to really worry for. And it already is set it as a 5 mid for 5 on a 5 with a solid block. Like, this card is good enough just to be ran by itself. We don't even necessarily have to force the momentum thing to happen. Up next, the reason we chose the good symbol is actually the next 2 attacks in the deck. We have Soheki on, we'll call it Sohaki. And it has the reversal keyword. For anybody out there who's new to UniVersus, the way that the reversal keyword works is after you successfully block an attack, you can take and play this card from your hand. And so what we do is we block our attack with whatever, and then we play the Soheki on my opponent's turn, and then we use Midoriya's plus 10 damage. So they have got a 4 mid for 14 coming in on their turn, and so they have to deal with this that's going on. Really important that we make sure that we push in as much damage as we can. Not to mention, it says the next attack this turn gets +3 or -3 speed. So maybe that's the thing that pushes our Detroit Smash through, is the +3. So like, either makes my blocks easier or makes their attacks or makes my attacks better. And then lastly, the last kill card is Spirit Charged Punch for the same reason, but this card's a little bit better because it shares 2 resource symbols, life and good. We'll get to that in just a second. And then if this the next attack played this turn gets +3 or -3 damage, kind of keeps us alive just a little bit. And so this card says that I get to half block the next thing that happens. It's good enough. It is certainly good enough. Yeah, it's a 4 mid for 4, kind of like Soheki. It's interesting. It's interesting to say the least. So moving on. So as I said, a lot of this, I think the deck's actually like incredibly hard to play, just because of the way that you have to work with Midoriya. He's very much an all or nothing character with that discard your hand, and so you really got to make the most out of that. You got to make big bursty plays and push through. So next we're going to talk about the actions that we're playing. The 4 main actions we're playing are Let's Cut Loose. We're playing a lot of 4 of when it comes to foundations, where we need to be able to block some things because 28 life on a character with no defensive abilities, and the ability just to accidentally just throw your whole hand away. It's important that I block stuff and prepare for the next turn. So having like a Spirit Charge Punch and a Let's Cut Loose to go into your opponent's turn. This says I get to perfect block whatever I want, and then Spirit Charge Punch, as well as there's an interesting interaction we get to pick up with Let's Cut Loose that I will talk about in just a little bit. Let's see if we can get that out there, Shan. Apparently not. So let's move on. The next action we're playing is kind of an old action. It is for Dodge. Dodge says response lose X vitality. Before the damage step of your opponent's attack, it deals no damage and add one of your opponent's foundations to their hand. X equals half of the attack's damage rounded down. So it's not a normal half block, but we're basically half blocking. And then I'll put this up here. We're basically half blocking and then returning something to their hand. And the fact that both of these cards have non-blocks is really important because of a card in our deck, which we will get to. Actually, I'll just go for it next. And that is 4 of An Evening with Grin. What this card says is opponent's turn, destroy, add a non-attack card with no block from your discard pile to your hand. So you pick up either of these 2 really good defensive pieces, and then you are ready to defend yourself just by getting rid of a ready foundation. Like I said, our main defense are all onboard tricks. This says that these 2 awesome awesome actions are live even when I don't have a hand. Up next, we have 4 friends and rivals. I have to make sure that my attacks get to go through, and one of the easiest ways to make sure that happens is by playing a Spirit Charged Punch on my opponent's turn. Response commit after you play an attack that shares at least 2 symbols, and this one has these 2, plus all of Midoriya's do. Your opponent commits 2 foundations, and so being able to block reversal and then play 2 of these says that they commit 2 foundations. Maybe this isn't the thing that kills them on their turn, but maybe this was just enough to open them up to kill them on my turn. And so this interaction on the reversal is super good, not to mention friends and rivals mixed with Midoriya Strike. It might just be the thing that wins out the game. Up next, interesting tech on making sure that our attacks go through. We've got 3 useful enthusiasm. It has a static that says after this card is discarded from your hand, this attack gets +2 or -2 speed. And so this just helps us push a little bit more. This says Midoriya's ability says +10, +2 speed, as well as it doesn't have a block, right? So either I can pick it up on the reversal with An Evening with Grin and try and get a little more damage on the reversal, or I can just pick it up with Let's Cut Loose, pick it up out of my discard pile. I know I'm going to be discarding my hand this turn anyway, so the other card doesn't necessarily matter, but it's just another +2 speed. It's really easy to close out a game whenever you accidentally find 2 of these in your hand and then just dump them. I've never found all 3, but if you find 2, you might just accidentally get there. The first enhance, honestly, not very relevant. It's very easy for Midoriya to accidentally take a little bit of damage, and there's no life gain in the deck. So as soon as you get popped, it's over. Up next, we've got 4 note-taking. This card just guarantees one of our pokes go through. I either got to get that momentum, or it's late in the chain. I've got enough cards that commit my opponent's board that giving one of my punches +3 speed might be the thing that get there. My opponent has to block one of these attacks this turn. Well, if I've got 2 of these down, we're making their job unbelievably hard. Not to mention, once they have been flipped, they're very good for committing. Midoriya likes to commit himself completely and totally out, not only his hand but his staging area, and so having good face-down resources to make sure that you're not losing card text is really important. Good decision making. like you know, like Midoriya. This is probably my favorite foundation in the deck just because of how it interacts with the character. But it doesn't interact with the character directly. You just kind of got to think a little bit around it. It's for Buddhist devotion. It says first form destroy. Each player can add up to 2 foundations from that they can normally play from their hand to their staging area. So a lot of times the reason that Midoriya does not feel very good is because the normal way that you throw attack turns is you go attack, attack, and then you build out. You go foundation, foundation. Well, Midoriya doesn't get a chance to do that because he discards all those cool foundations you could have played. Buddhist Devotion, what it says is you just first form, and then you take any of these 2 foundations that you want, and then just plop them into your staging area. You get rid of the Buddhist form, and then you add in the two cool cards that you want. Well, now I just dropped +6 speed. Maybe this is the turn that I kill you, and my opponent wasn't able to calculate on it from their last turn. And there's so many good foundations, playable foundations that can make or break this card. Not to mention it's got a 2-high block with a good breaker block. It's a solid card all around, and I definitely think this is the game changer for Midoriya as a whole. Up next, we've got 4 Toughest Punk in Junior High. The reason this card is so good, once again, it says onboard tricks. It says half blocks become full blocks, and it says that non-blocks become half blocks. Just reduce the damage you would take by 3, just for a simple flip. It's also really good for momentum denial. It's really good. Discard our hand. I've got some defense on board. Kind of very straightforward. In the same route that I've got for a Master's True Power. Like I said, it's super easy to accidentally be caught with either too many non-blocks in our hand just because of the way the deck is built, or don't have a hand because of Midoriya. This says Enhance Commit, destroy 1 foundation. This attack gets -1 damage for each of its keywords. And so your opponent's throwing a Nutcracker at you, and it's going to get plus a bunch of damage. They said -5 damage just by committing and destroying a foundation. Probably one of these face downs that we just had. Oh, it's also got a really gnarly 1 mid block. This card's very, very good. The Deadlock Enhance is not relevant to our deck at all. We play no weapons. Up next, last bit of onboard defense is just refusing to let go. Enhance Commit. This attack gets goes back to printed speed and then +2 or -2. Really important to make sure that I think this is a solid one of in both the good and order versions, just because of the onboard defense. And there's sometimes where you just enhance, give your thing +2 damage, and then give it another +10 damage. And that might be, that +12 might be the thing that cleans up the game. We're playing 4 of Passing the Torch. This is arguably Midoriya's best foundation. It says Enhance Commit, draw a card, but if you have no cards in your hand, you'll draw 2 cards instead. And so it's actually a really neat strategy that on your opponent's turn, let's say that I've got 3 or 4 cards in my hand, but none of them are able to interact with what my opponent is doing. I can totally discard my hand as cost to make my punch attack better, and then commit and draw 2 cards as opposed to the just 1. It seems it's a really desperate play, but it's a play that can exist, and for that reason, Passing the Torch just lets me up and keep pushing in more damage, keep making more plays, so that after the +10 damage with Midoriya, my turn's not just auto over. For the same reason that my last card is New Empress of Nether Realms. This card is just a flip draw card, but honestly, the Desperation Enhance, look at the top card of my opponent's deck, helps me do a little mental math in order, can they block this or can they not? Really important whenever we're trying to figure out what do I give my +10 damage on. If my opponent has any speed buffs, do they have any minuses, what's in their card pool, this goes, hey, I know what they're going to check, let me do the mental math and figure out if I can just math my way to make sure that the victor, oh, you're going to be checking a 5? Well, maybe I don't do the plus 10 here. Or you're going to be checking a 1 or a 2. Now's the time. You physically can't pass this. I've done the math in my head. I've taken all my notes. All right, everybody, so that was my Midoriya profile. If you like that, please make sure you go check out the Campus Championship, DLC, and more, where you get to see the deck in action. Leave me a comment down below. What did you like? What did you not like? What would you change? I'd love to have a conversation with you guys. And if you want to have a more in-depth conversation, make sure you go out to patreon.com/TCGUniversity and jump on our Discord out there. We'd love to hear from you as we record our study halls live, as well as give some cool deck ideas for future campus championships. So, from all of us here at TCG University, thank you very much for watching, and stay alert.